The conference room felt smaller than usual. I stood at the front, laptop open, heart pounding as I walked the executives through the analytics dashboard I'd built. 3 months of late nights, countless weekends. My accent thickened when I got nervous, and I hated that about myself. But the demo was flawless. The system predicted client behavior with 92% accuracy. I watched their faces light up. Then Marcus, my boss, stood up. He smiled at me, then turned to the room. "What Patrick's showing you here is exactly the vision I had 6 months ago," he said smoothly. "I'm glad the team executed it so well." The team, not me. The team. The executives nodded, scribbling notes. One of them said, "Marcus, this is incredible work." I opened my mouth to speak, but Marcus was already answering questions, rephrasing everything I just explained. My throat closed. I stood there invisible as applause filled the room. When I sat down, my hands were shaking. Marcus winked at me. "Good work, kid." I found Marcus in his office after the meeting. My voice came out quieter than I wanted. "You didn't mention my name once." He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. "Patrick, listen, you're talented, no doubt, but these executives don't care about individual contributors. They care about leadership, about vision." I felt my jaw tighten. "But I built it, every single line of code." He waved a hand dismissively. "And you'll get your recognition. When this thing launches and scales, trust me, we'll make sure people know you contributed." Contributed, like I was one piece in a puzzle he'd designed. I wanted to shout, I wanted to walk out. Instead, I nodded. "Okay," he smiled. "That's the spirit, team player, that's what gets you ahead here." I left his office feeling hollow. That afternoon, I filed a complaint with HR. 2 days later, they called me in. The HR manager, a woman named Carol, spoke in that soft, condescending tone people use when they've already decided against you. "We appreciate your passion, Patrick, but this was a team effort." I didn't bother arguing. Weeks passed. Marcus started excluding me from client meetings. I'd find out later he was presenting my system, rebranded now as InsightBridge, as his own innovation. One Friday evening, I stayed late finishing a bug fix. As I walked past the glass-walled conference room, I saw him inside with 3 executives and a client. My dashboard was on the screen. Marcus gestured confidently, explaining features I'd designed. I stood there, watching through the glass like a ghost. He caught my eye for a second, didn't even flinch, just kept talking. I went home that night and opened a beer. My wife Amara asked what was wrong. I told her everything. She sat beside me, hand on my shoulder. "Patrick, you have proof?" "Yes." "Documents?" I nodded slowly. I'd kept every draft, every commit log. She squeezed my hand. "Then you keep your head down, you document, and when the time is right, you show them who built it." I didn't know it then, but that was the moment I stopped fighting for recognition and started preparing for survival. I became meticulous. Every commit I made, I logged with timestamps. Every email I sent about features or architecture, I archived in a separate folder. I even transferred the original stable version of the system, the one I'd built before Marcus started demanding rush changes, to my personal drive. Not to sabotage anything, just as insurance. I told myself I was being paranoid, that maybe things would work out, but deep down I knew Marcus wasn't going to give me credit. Going to bury me the moment I became inconvenient. At work I kept my head down. I smiled when he praised the team. I nodded when he talked about his vision. And at night I backed up everything. One evening Liam, a colleague I trusted, stopped by my desk. "You know, everyone's talking about Marcus, right?" I looked up. "Talking how?" He lowered his voice. "How he's taking credit for your work. People aren't stupid, Patrick, we see it." I forced a smile. "Doesn't matter. The product speaks for itself." Liam shook his head. "Man, you're too nice." Maybe I was, but I was also calculating. Marcus won Innovator of the Year at the company gala. I sat at a table in the back with Amara, watching him take the stage in a tailored suit. He held the glass trophy high, grinning like he'd just won an Oscar. "This award isn't just for me," he said into the microphone. "It's for every person on my team who believed in the vision of InsightBridge." The room erupted in applause. Amara squeezed my hand under the table. I clapped too, my face blank. After the ceremony, Marcus found me near the bar. "Patrick, did you see? We did it, man." I looked at him, really looked at him. His smile was so easy, so practiced. "Congratulations," I said flatly. He clapped me on the shoulder. "Don't worry, your time will come." I nodded. "I'm sure it will." As he walked away, Liam appeared beside me. "You okay?" I took a sip of my drink. "Yeah, I'm fine," but I wasn't. Something inside me had shifted. I wasn't angry anymore. I was cold, focused. I knew what I had to do. I just had to wait. 2 months after the gala, the first cracks appeared. A major client reported bugs, serious ones, data corruption, failed predictions. Marcus called an emergency meeting. He looked pale, his confidence shaken. "We need this fixed yesterday," he snapped. "Patrick, you're on it." I nodded calmly. "I'll take a look." When I dug into the code, I found the problem immediately. Marcus had pushed untested features live, changes he'd demanded over my objections. The foundation I'd built was solid. But his modifications had broken everything. I fixed what I could in 72 hours, patched the leaks, stabilized the system, but I didn't fix everything. I left certain inefficiencies in place, nothing catastrophic, just enough to make the system fragile under heavy load. Marcus presented the fix to the client as if he'd solved it himself. They seemed satisfied, for now. That night, Amara asked me, "Did you really fix it?" I met her eyes. I fixed enough. She didn't ask more. She knew me well enough to understand. I wasn't sabotaging Marcus. I was just no longer protecting him from himself. Marcus became paranoid. He started calling weekend meetings, demanding progress reports on Slack at midnight. His tone turned sharp, accusatory. "Why is this taking so long?" He'd snap in stand-ups. People started avoiding him. I watched him unravel slowly, his mask slipping. One morning he pulled me aside. "Patrick, I need you to be honest with me. Is the system stable?" I kept my face neutral. "It's as stable as it can be with the current architecture." He stared at me. "What does that mean?" I shrugged. "It means if we keep pushing, untested features live. It'll break again, but you already knew that." His jaw tightened. For a second, I thought he'd fire me on the spot. Instead, he just walked away. That afternoon, Liam sent me a message. "Recruiter reached out. Startup looking for someone with your exact skill set. Want me to forward it?" I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed back, "Yes, send it." 2 weeks later, I had an offer. Better pay, better title, better people. I drafted my resignation letter that night. When I told Amara, she smiled. "It's time." I nodded. "Yeah, it's time." I walked into Marcus's office on a Tuesday morning. He barely looked up from his laptop. "What's up?" I handed him the letter. "I'm resigning, 2 weeks' notice." His eyes widened. He read the letter quickly, then looked at me, almost amused. "You serious?" I nodded. He leaned back, laughing softly. "Patrick, come on, you're upset about the credit thing, I get it, but you'll regret this." I didn't respond. He stood up, walking around his desk. "You know what? Fine, go. When InsightBridge takes off and you see how big this gets, don't come crawling back." I met his eyes evenly. "I won't." Something flickered across his face, confusion, maybe even fear, but he recovered quickly, shrugging. "Your loss." I left his office without another word. Over the next 2 weeks, I finished my handover documentation. I didn't sabotage anything. I just documented everything honestly, every unstable module, every untested feature, every shortcut Marcus had forced. When my last day came, Liam walked me to the door. "You're making the right call," he said. I smiled. "I know." As I walked out, I didn't look back. 3 months into my new job, I got a text from Liam. "Jude, InsightBridge is imploding. Clients are furious, data corruption everywhere." I stared at my phone during lunch. Part of me wanted to feel satisfied, but mostly I just felt tired. I texted back, "Marcus handling it." Liam replied, "He's blaming everyone but himself. Says the system was unstable from the start. People are starting to ask questions." I didn't respond. That evening, Amara asked if I'd heard anything. I told her. She watched my face carefully. "Are you going to say something?" I shook my head. "No, it's not my problem anymore." She nodded. "Good, but it wasn't about revenge. It was about boundaries. I'd built something good and Marcus had broken it trying to claim it. That was on him." A week later, my old company announced an internal audit. Liam texted, "They're reviewing all of Marcus's projects. Looking at commit histories, version logs, everything." I set my phone down. Somewhere deep inside, I felt a flicker of something. Not joy, not satisfaction, just closure. The truth was coming out, and I hadn't said a word. The audit results leaked within a month. Someone forwarded me an internal memo. It detailed inconsistencies in project attribution and unverified code deployments. Marcus's name appeared 17 times. Mine appeared 11, always as the original architect. The CTO had apparently pulled the full commit history. Every timestamp, every author tag, every version note. It painted a clear picture. I'd built the foundation. Marcus had taken credit, then broken it with reckless changes. Liam called me that night. "Patrick, they know, everyone knows now." I exhaled slowly. "Good," he paused. "Marcus is trying to spin it, says you left things incomplete, but no one's buying it." I didn't gloat, I just said, "He'll figure it out." The next morning, I got an email from an executive I'd never met, someone from the original demo. Subject line, "Clarification needed." The message was short. "Patrick, I'm reviewing the InsightBridge project history. Would you be willing to provide a statement about your involvement?" I sat with that email for hours. Amara found me staring at my laptop. "What is it?" I showed her. She read it, then looked at me. "Are you going to respond?" I thought about it, then I started typing. Not with anger, not with bitterness, just facts, dates, commits, architecture documents. I attached everything I'd saved. When I hit send, I felt lighter. 2 weeks later, Marcus was reassigned. Not fired, not publicly shamed, just quietly moved to a smaller division with a vague new title. In corporate terms, it was a death sentence. His name disappeared from the leadership page. InsightBridge was quietly shelved. The company brought in a new team to rebuild from scratch, using my original stable version as the foundation. Liam told me all this over coffee one Saturday. "They're calling it a strategic realignment," he said, rolling his eyes. I sipped my coffee. "How's Marcus taking it?" Liam shrugged. "Haven't seen him in weeks. He works remotely now, doesn't come to meetings." I nodded slowly. Part of me expected to feel victorious, but I didn't. I just felt done. That night my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Then I did. "Hello." Silence. Then Marcus's voice, strained and tired. "You won, Patrick." I sat up. "Marcus, no, don't. Just, I hope you're happy." I took a breath. I didn't win anything, Marcus, I just left. He hung up. I stared at the phone for a long time. Amara came into the room. Was that him? I nodded. She sat beside me. How do you feel? I thought about it. Sad for both of us. She kissed my forehead. You did the right thing. At my new company, I started rebuilding the idea properly. We called it Ground Floor. This time I had a team that respected me. A CEO who asked questions instead of taking credit. An environment where my accent didn't matter, only my work. One afternoon, my new boss, Karen, stopped by my desk. Patrick, I saw your old project, InsightBridge. It's all over the tech forums. People are saying it was mismanaged into the ground. I tensed. Yeah, it was. Complicated. She smiled. Well, I'm glad you're here now. Your work speaks for itself. That phrase, your work speaks for itself, hit me harder than I expected because it was true. My work had spoken, not through my voice, not through arguments or fights, just through timestamps and commit logs and the simple, undeniable fact that I'd built something real. We launched Ground Floor 6 months later. No fanfare, no awards, just steady, organic growth. Clients loved it. Competitors took notice. And my name was on every document, every presentation, every line of credit. One evening, I showed Amara the company website. There under leadership was my photo. My title, Chief Technology Officer. She smiled. You earned this. I nodded. Yeah, I did. A year after I left, Liam joined a competitor. We grabbed lunch one afternoon, catching up. You hear about Marcus? He asked. I shook my head. Not really, Liam smirked. He's consulting now, small firm in Ohio, totally off the radar. I absorbed that. Is he okay? Liam looked surprised. You actually care? I shrugged. I don't wish him harm, I just wanted him to stop taking credit for my work. Liam nodded slowly. That's really mature, man, I smiled. I'm Nigerian. We're raised to outlast our enemies, not destroy them. He laughed. We changed the subject. But later, driving home, I thought about Marcus, about how much energy he'd wasted trying to seem brilliant instead of actually being useful. I didn't hate him, I pitied him. That night I opened my old backup drive, the one with all the proof. Commit logs, emails, original code. I stared at the folder for a long time, then I deleted it. All of it. I didn't need proof anymore. The story had already been told. I was free. One day a journalist reached out via LinkedIn. She was writing a piece about toxic tech leadership and had heard about the InsightBridge collapse. Would you be willing to share your side of the story? I sat with that message for a week. Amara asked what I was thinking. Part of me wants to, I admitted, but another part just wants to move on. She nodded. Then move on, I replied to the journalist. I appreciate the interest, but I'm focused on building now, not looking back. Best of luck with your article. She thanked me and said she understood. A month later, the article came out anyway. It didn't name me directly, but it referenced a talented engineer whose work was appropriated by leadership. The piece went viral in tech circles. I got dozens of messages, people sharing their own stories, thanking me for speaking up, except I hadn't spoken up. The truth had simply surfaced on its own. That's when I realized silence can be more powerful than shouting. Sometimes the best revenge is just stepping aside and letting consequences unfold. Marcus had ruined himself. I'd just gotten out of the way. 2 years after I left, I spoke at a tech conference. The topic, building ethical engineering cultures. Standing on that stage felt surreal. The room was packed. I talked about documentation, about giving credit, about the importance of transparency. I didn't mention Marcus by name. I didn't have to. After my talk, a young woman approached me. She was Nigerian too. I could hear it in her accent. Mr. Patrick, thank you. I've been dealing with something similar at my job. Your story gave me courage. I smiled. What are you going to do? She straightened her shoulders. I'm going to document everything, and then I'm going to leave. I nodded. Smart. She hesitated. Do you regret not fighting harder, not exposing him publicly? I thought about that. No, I said finally, because I didn't need to destroy him. I just needed to protect myself and build something better. She thanked me and walked away. I watched her go, feeling something I hadn't felt in years, pride, not in revenge, not in Marcus's downfall, but in my own resilience, in my ability to choose dignity over anger. That night I called my mother in Lagos. She asked how work was. Good, Mama, really good. She paused. You sound different, lighter. I smiled. I am. Ground Floor kept growing. We hit 50 employees, then 100. Investors came calling. My face ended up in TechCrunch. One morning I got an email from an old executive, the same one who'd applauded Marcus at that first demo. Subject, long overdue apology. I opened it cautiously. Patrick, I owe you an apology. I didn't know the full story back then, but I do now. What happened to you was wrong. For what it's worth, your work was always exceptional. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. I stared at the screen. Part of me wanted to be bitter, to say, too little, too late. But I wasn't that person anymore. I replied, thank you for reaching out, I appreciate it, no hard feelings. And I meant it, because holding on to anger was exhausting. Forgiveness not for Marcus, not for the executives, but for myself was freedom. That weekend, Amara and I took our daughter to the park. She ran ahead, laughing, her braids bouncing. I watched her, feeling a deep, quiet gratitude. What are you thinking? Amara asked. I smiled. That I'm glad I didn't let bitterness win. She leaned her head on my shoulder. Me too. One afternoon, I got a LinkedIn message from Marcus. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. Patrick, I know I don't deserve a response, but I want to say I'm sorry. What I did was wrong. You deserved better. I read it 3 times. There was no excuse in it, no justification, just an apology. I didn't know if it was genuine. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but it didn't matter anymore. I typed back. I appreciate that, Marcus. I hope you're doing well. Short, simple. True, he didn't respond, and I didn't expect him to. That night I told Amara. How do you feel? She asked. I thought about it. Lighter, like I just closed a chapter I didn't know was still open. She smiled. Good, you deserve peace. And I had it, not because Marcus apologized, not because the truth came out, but because I'd chosen to build instead of destroy. I'd chosen patience over rage. I'd chosen myself. That was the real victory. I hired a young engineer named Chidi. He reminded me of myself, quiet, brilliant, immigrant. One day he came to my office, nervous. Sir, I built a feature over the weekend, but I don't know if I should present it. I smiled. Why not? He hesitated. What if someone takes credit? I leaned back, understanding immediately. Chidi, let me tell you something. Document everything, keep proof, but more importantly, find people who value you. Because the right team will never steal from you. He nodded slowly. Is that what happened to you? I paused, then I nodded. Yeah, but I survived, and so will you. He left my office looking stronger. That moment reminded me why I'd built Ground Floor, not for revenge, not for recognition, but to create a place where people like Chidi and like me could thrive without fear, a place where credit flowed freely, where honesty mattered more than ego. That was my legacy, not Marcus's downfall. Not even Ground Floor's success, but the culture I'd built, the people I'd protected, the trust I'd earned. 3 years after leaving, I ran into Marcus at a conference. He looked older, tired. When our eyes met, he hesitated. Then he walked over. Patrick, I nodded. Marcus, awkward silence. Then he said, your company's doing well. I've been following it. I didn't know what to say. Thanks. He looked down. I know I don't deserve to ask, but do you ever think about what happened? I considered that. Sometimes, but not with anger, like a lesson. He nodded. I learned a lot too late maybe, but I did. We stood there, 2 men who'd once been locked in a silent war, now just strangers with shared history. Take care, Marcus, I said finally. You too, Patrick. We walked in opposite directions, and I felt nothing but peace, because revenge had never been about him suffering. It was about me healing, and I had. At our annual company retreat, I gave a speech. I want to tell you all something, I began. This company exists because someone once stole credit for my work. And instead of destroying him, I chose to build something better. The room went silent. I could have spent years being angry. I could have sued. I could have gone public, but I didn't, because revenge isn't always fire. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's patience. Sometimes it's just walking away and proving you never needed them in the first place. People nodded. Some wiped their eyes. So if you ever feel overlooked, undervalued, or invisible, document everything. Protect yourself. But more importantly, believe in your own worth, because the right people will see it, and the wrong people will expose themselves. The applause that followed felt different than the applause Marcus received that day years ago. This time it was mine, earned, real, deserved. My daughter turned 5. At her birthday party she asked, Daddy, what do you do at work? I smiled. I build things that help people. She frowned. Like toys, I laughed. No, like computer programs. They help businesses work better. She thought about that. Are you the best at it? I paused. I don't know if I'm the best, but I work hard and I'm honest. She nodded seriously. Mommy says honesty is the most important. I glanced at Amara, who smiled. Mommy's right. That night, putting her to bed, she asked, Daddy, did anyone ever try to take your toys? I froze, then I smiled. Yes, sweetie, someone did, but I built new ones, better ones. She hugged me. Good. As I left her room, I realized that was the simplest, truest version of my story. Someone took my work. I built something better. No drama, no revenge, just resilience, and that was enough. 5 years after leaving, I got invited to speak at my old company's leadership summit. I almost declined, but Amara convinced me. It's closure, Patrick, real closure. So I went. Walking through those halls felt strange, new faces, new energy. When I took the stage, I saw a few familiar faces in the crowd. Liam, Carol from HR, even the executive who'd apologized. I told my story, not with bitterness, but with honesty. I talked about documentation. About self-advocacy, about knowing when to fight and when to walk away. I don't tell you this story to shame anyone, I said. I tell it because someone in this room might be going through it right now, and I want you to know you will survive, you will build again, and you will be stronger for it. The applause was long and genuine. Afterward, Carol approached me. Patrick, I owe you an apology. I should have listened. I smiled. Thank you, that means a lot. And it did, not because I needed it, but because it confirmed what I'd always known. The truth always surfaces. You just have to be patient enough to let it. Last month, I deleted my last backup of the original InsightBridge code. The file had been sitting in cloud storage, untouched for years. I didn't need it anymore. The proof had served its purpose. Justice had been done, not through lawsuits or public shamming, but through time, truth, and resilience. Amara asked why I kept it so long. Insurance, I said, in case anyone ever questioned my story. She smiled. And now, I shrugged. Now I don't need anyone to believe me. I know what I did, that's enough. She kissed my cheek. I'm proud of you. That night I sat on our porch watching the sunset. I thought about the man I'd been 5 years ago, angry, invisible, desperate for recognition. And I thought about the man I'd become, confident, successful, at peace. The difference wasn't revenge, it wasn't even justice. It was choice. I'd chosen to build instead of destroy, to create instead of retaliate, to move forward instead of looking back. And that choice had made all the difference. Yesterday, a young engineer messaged me on LinkedIn. Mr. Patrick, I'm going through something similar. My manager took credit for my project. I'm thinking of quitting. What should I do? I read the message twice, then I called him. First, I said, document everything. Timestamps, emails, commits, protect yourself. He listened. Second, decide what you want. Do you want recognition or do you want peace? He paused. I don't know. I smiled. Then take your time. But know this, you don't need their approval to be valuable. Your work speaks for itself and the right people will see it. He thanked me, voice shaking. After we hung up, I felt that same sense of purpose I'd felt when I hired Chidi. This wasn't just my story anymore, it was a blueprint, a map for anyone who'd ever been overlooked, underestimated, or erased. And the lesson was simple: revenge isn't always a fire, sometimes it's silence, sometimes it's patience. Sometimes it's just building something so undeniable that the truth becomes unavoidable. Today I woke up in a home I own, in a life I built, surrounded by people who value me. My company thrives, my family is happy, my conscience is clear. Marcus's name comes up occasionally, usually in cautionary tales about bad leadership. I don't add to those conversations, I don't need to, because here's what I learned: he didn't ruin me, he revealed me. He showed me I was capable of more than I'd imagined, strong enough to endure injustice, patient enough to outlast dishonesty, wise enough to choose dignity over vengeance. People ask if I ever got my revenge. I tell them the truth: I didn't destroy Marcus, I didn't need to. He ruined himself the moment he chose credit over character. I just got out of the way, and I built something better. That's not revenge, that's justice. And sometimes the quietest victories are the most powerful ones. I didn't set him on fire, I just stopped holding the umbrella while he stood in the rain. And I walked into the sun.